Hello, BWIB members. Today we will be continuing our technical workshop series on the Figma track, and we will be learning how to design your very first wireframe. I'm giving you guys this prompt just so you guys have a better way of knowing what to practice. So today we will be focusing on designing some pages for Instagram's mobile application. So you guys should have received the link to the training file, which if you click on it, will look like this. So what this link will do is if you have made a Figma account, you will be able to access or open up this file and copy the needed assets for the login page and the profile page. So these here, these hopefully will save you some time from actually drawing things out, because I just want you guys to get a better idea or a better grasp of building something rather than creating everything from scratch, if that makes sense. Just because a lot of you guys are still beginners, and this is just a basic way of getting you more familiarized with the features of Figma. If there are any issues with trying to copy over assets, please reach out to BWIB's email, and I will try to do my best to help you. This video will just be a walkthrough of how to create this, this wireframe. However, feel free to work on it on your own first, and if you reach any hiccups or you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either me or watch this video. But for those of you who just want to watch it first and just get a feel for things before trying it out, feel free to do that too. So some things to note, again, in terms of picking up colors for gradients and stuff, these are just images, especially this one, so feel free to copy that over, and when you get to gradients, you can from your file, when you're working on your file, you can just grab the colors from here, so it will hopefully make things a bit easier. Okay, so I guess we'll get started. So first things first, we want to grab a frame. So here, I'll choose iPhone Max, iPhone 11 right here, and I will be creating this login page first. So the thing about wireframes, for those of you who are new to UX and UI design, I guess I should start explaining the differences between the different types of wireframes. So here you have the basic shapes of what you want to lay out, and you're kind of just planning out where you want certain things to be. So for example, like your username and your password here, you want a login button here, you want a sign up link here. And then for the profile page, you kind of outline like, oh, you want the pictures to go here and the story highlights here, and your profile picture here, details, etc., etc. So these two are what you would call low fidelity wireframes. And a lot of people using Figma or other types of software will create these where they just lay out the basic shapes of what they want. They'll either use a program like Figma or another one, or they will draw it out on paper. Doesn't really matter which. This is kind of just like a way to plan where you want your content. And when you want to start actually building things more, such as like you actually prepare like what colors you use and what the actual page is going to look like, what things are going to click, what things are meant to be swiped, this and that. That's called a high fidelity wireframe. This is just an image of one, but this is a good example of what a high fidelity wireframe would be like, where things are more closer to what you actually want that page to look like when you're finished. I guess not really this image right here, because it's very close to being one, but like just it's still kind of like laying out some things. So it's kind of like an in-between one, or in a page that's an in-between stage of low fidelity to high fidelity. But this one's a better example of something that is not quite the final product, but very close to the final product. So anyway, moving on. Here's my frame that I want. Let's rename it so I don't get it confused with anything else. Let's call it by my name, Crystal. Okay, so that is mine right here. And when you copy over assets, copy over the assets placed here and here. Don't copy the ones from here. Just so you guys get a better hang of resizing and positioning and this and that. So here, if we zoom in, you see you have Instagrams, not logo, but like their fancy cursive that they have here. And then 2 boxes for username and password, login button, a link to log in with Facebook, and then a sign up link. So these are the assets that we want. So I'm going to copy over this, zoom out, and click and copy and paste, click and drag. And remember, oops, that you can bring it into the frame like this. I am going to resize it, but I want to scale this asset. I don't want to mess up any of the proportions, so I'm going to press K. You can also change it up here. So K for scale. And I'm going to scale it down. And remember, if you leave it out, you will still you will cut out anything that is not within the frame. So here I'm going to move it, and you can see that it automatically centers. If I go closer down here, it centers here too. So these lines are quite helpful. I'm just going to put mine right there for now. Let's see, I'm going to move this over just so I have a better sense of where things are placed. Okay, that seems about right. We don't need it to be like super exact, but it's about right there. Okay, I'm gonna grab this, copy and paste it over. Also, another way, remember, if you highlight it, press Option, and you can click and drag another copy. That's another way to copy things. So here, you can see that it automatically lines these assets up. So that makes things easier, so I don't have to guess the line here or here that it takes to make things perfectly aligned. Let's see here, compared to here, it's kind of about this big of a gap between the two. And then remember, if I want to move both of these at once without messing the alignment, I can click and highlight both and move them in here, but they're kind of big, so I want to scale them both. And again, they're both highlighted, so I can scale both of them at the same time. So I'm going to click and drag that in, and look, I can center it too. You can see that the bars here are closer to the edge, so I'm going to fix that. Probably a little bigger. Whoops. There we go. Might be a bit too big, but that's okay. I'll just fix it because it kind of bothers me. All right. And then how far it is from the actual word Instagram. We can say, I'll bring it a little more down. Okay, right there. So there it is. I need the login. So here I just have the word login. So I'll just copy and paste that. However, I'd need a square for it to go into. So I'm gonna click rectangle, draw one. You can also draw a rectangle inside the frame, but I like to work outside first. Well, it depends, but because this frame is quite slim, I'm going to just do everything outside first and then drag it in as I go. So here, you see that it's a white rectangle. So there are 2 ways we can do that. Here, click fill, and we can fill it to white, or we can make it transparent by moving this all the way to the left. And what that will do is, you can't see it, so hold on. Let me keep it here and then make a stroke so you guys can better see it. I'll add a stroke, which means I'll add a border here. Make it, let's say about 5. It looks a little too thick, so we'll go 3. Okay, that's about right. So if you can see, whoops. Let's put it here so you can see what I'm talking about with colors. So you can either make it a solid white, if you make it transparent, that's another way you can make it white too, since the background is white. But for this case, it's up to you, but I am going to just keep it a solid white rather than transparent. There's no right or wrong. It's just a matter of preference in this case. So let's zoom in. Also, you should be able to click on each asset in the example. And in design, you can see the dimensions if you want to be super specific. So here I can see that it's 33 and 383. So let's try that. Obviously, this is a little bigger, so I will probably have to scale things accordingly. But just to get a better idea of sizing in this case, you can either just change the dimensions based on what you have here, or you can eyeball it. I will just probably eye it for now. Oh, and you can see that this lines up with here, so what I can do is automatically line it up here and match it up on the side. See how it highlights? There you go. Looks a little thinner. There we go, that's about right. And it's about the same length too. Oh, another thing that's cool about lengths is you can see that it matches the spacing. It's kind of hard to do when you have multiple, or if you have multiple rectangles and you're doing them all one by one. So an easy way to fix that in some other project is, again, to highlight like both here, copy and paste it over, and then match them accordingly, so you don't have to do everything one by one, and it's kind of a pain and a hassle. So yeah, here it automatically lines it up to 22 spacing here, and you can change that if you change like the middle one here, if you move it out here or farther out, and then you can match it up again, it will automatically do the same. Yeah, so here I will move a bit faster. Whoops, since this is more of a walkthrough rather than anything, since I do want you guys to just practice this on your own first, so I won't really explain a lot. I still will talk through it, but I just, for time's sake, I will try to move faster. So here you can see that login, I want it to be on top of this box. Remember from the last video here, I can change that over here. So I can see that this rectangle is rectangle 23, sorry, because it is highlighted, and login is placed under it. I can manually drag like that, so login is on top, and that will just mean login will be placed on top of the assets. So the order here, remember, it does matter at some times, at some point, and this is a case where it does. What I can also do is create a text box with this login, fill it, and give it a stroke as well. I guess that's another thing you can do if you really wanted to. Let's see, keep it like that. I'm going to change it to move or V, and then I can do this. Center this, give it a stroke. Oh, whoops. Oh, this is just for fill and stroke here is just for just the text itself, not the text box. Okay, so Yeah, my bad. You can't color the text box, so you do need a rectangle in it. What you can do though is, again, align it like that. It will automatically align here. So looks looking good. We are pretty much halfway done with this. Go back to this Facebook logo, copy and paste, zoom out a bit so I can see it. I didn't double copy, right? Yep, okay, cool. Go back in. You can see login with Facebook. So again, I want to scale this down just so I don't mess up any proportions. About that big in comparison. I could make it smaller, but we'll see. Okay, so we don't, looking at our assets, we don't have a login with Facebook, but we do have just simply log in. So I am just going to, you can create a new text box, so I'm just going to use what we have here. And I'm going to resize it so it fits the length of this login button. There you go. Right here. And anyway, I need to make it wider so it doesn't go down. Like Facebook. Okay, and then this text is obviously too big, so I want to change it. It's too small. Okay, that looks pretty much the same. All right. Cool. And oh, this is top aligned right now, and I want it to be more middle. There we go. So again, change it here, and then guesstimate the length or the gap between the two assets. Looks about right. And then I can center both. It's quite far from the login button, so we'll go about there is good. Size overall, let's see. I like that. We can keep it that. It might be a bit too big, but again, this doesn't have to be perfect. This is just a way for you to start practicing to build things. So we'll just roll with that. Okay, next thing, we need this line, and we will move it here outside. So I am going to scale it outside here. And I've, again, if you missed it, I automatically aligned it to the length or to this end of the frame. I'm going to move it. Try to scale, because if you move it, you might mess up the orientation of the line. For example, you might make it more slanted, but that's just an easy fix up here by making it when you move it, by making things 0 to lay it out. But yeah, so just be wary of that. So now I'm going to bring that in about here. Yeah, that's good. Okay. And then I'm just going to take this login again. I could create a new text box, but I'm lazy. And you could, for extra practice, it's just a simple click here, drag, and type something. And then edit the text accordingly. But I'm just going to click and drag the assets for now. There you go. sign up. Okay, move it out so it doesn't do, it doesn't go down. Change it. It looks about the same as this login right here. So we'll just go, what was it, 24? Yeah, 24. We'll do the same. And you can see it just fixes the font size. We want it centered, and then about here. Yeah, looks good. Okay, and this was centered too? Nope, we'll fix that. Okay, so that should be your Instagram page, the login page at least. So that was pretty easy. So let's move to something a bit more complicated. Also, once you finish this, feel free to move on to a more high fidelity version. Right now, I'm just gonna do the low fidelity first, and then depending on how long this video is, I will probably split it into 2 parts, or just keep rolling, but go a bit faster. So here, we'll do the same frame. I can add another one here. Or is there, actually, see, iPad Pro X, I'll just do that one. There we go. This is also about the same here. I can also just copy over what I've done to the correct size, which is this iPhone 11 Pro, but feel free to experiment. I think it's a good idea to experiment with different types of frames because different sizes of devices, such as like tablets and phones and desktop versions, the design for certain things has to be or should be responsive in the sense that if you move from like, the desktop application of Instagram to the tablet to a phone, it's obviously not going to be the same just because of the size differences. If anything, things should scale down nicely in a readable way. Things should move around. The design should be slightly different because you use a desktop version differently from the mobile version, right? So yeah, you can, when you create these wireframes, you can use the same frame, which here is the iPhone 11 Pro, but I would actually highly suggest playing around with different sizes like I have here. If anything, work on a desktop version too, if you want, and get fancy, because responsive design is good design in that, again, when you move from different devices, things should scale accordingly in a very nice and readable manner. An example of a bad responsive design is CCLE. You would notice when you minimize or when you make the screen smaller and like you make the window smaller, things get cut off because you have the tab bar and then things don't scroll nicely and this and that. So yeah, yeah, just play around with different size frames. But if you wanted, I guess, to fix this because, no, Crystal, this frame, it's not the same as this frame, it really bothers me and this and that, you just copy over, scale down accordingly, you know, make you guys happy and be like, hey, it's the same size now. Pretty much. And then you can just fix it accordingly, but there you go for people who were annoyed that I chose a different frame. So here, so looking at this, I have, oh look, there's a rectangle here, a white rectangle, large rectangles here, circles, a bar, all these assets that are highlighted are part of things. Oh, and look, I have part of a story highlight that is cut off because why you want things to cut off is you want either, if it's a pattern of some sort, like if you have a banner that has a pattern on it and you want it to be continuous, this is an example where you would do this type of thing where it cuts off at the edge of the frame, or if you want to indicate that a piece of content continues on. So in this case, story highlights, you know, you can scroll through it or you can swipe through the different story highlights. So here is just an indication of, yeah, there's more highlights to go through and you're able to scroll this. So kind of the same idea here where it's not necessarily the end of the frame, but you're marking this white bar here, like this navigation bar here, but you're indicating that, oh, because the square gets kind of cut off, it actually continues on and you would have to do something such as scroll to get that piece of content in its entirety. So, okay, so let's get started. I'm gonna work on some of the easy parts. So here, this bar, oops, scroll out. I need this bar, move it in here. I'm also gonna move here so it's a bit easier to see what I need to work on. This goes here. Again, you see it automatically aligns, which is pretty cool. I have profile circle. Let's see. It's about like here-ish. Yeah, works. Not going to be perfect, guys. This is just practice. Okay, copy these. Automatically align. I don't care about if they're perfectly spaced out for now. Drag it in. Now I can focus, whoops, on the details so I can see that this here's not that far, so I'll just kind of put it here. And mind you, these should be of like the same size as the assets, so you shouldn't really need to resize. But feel free to do so if you're working on a different size frame. It's a bit too, yeah, that's good enough. Don't want to agonize over it too long. You can see it's not quite there. It's a little for, see about there. That looks good. Yep. Okay, this whole asset, copy, paste, get out, bring that here, and then how many circles do you have? 1, 2, 3, 5 circles. Okay. So I'm going to fix that right after I copy over these circles. Okay, again, I can just option. Okay, oh look, cool. I have it spaced out. Oh, that was a coincidence. I didn't really pay attention to that, but I have it spaced out at 28 spaces between each circle. It looks a bit, the gap looks a bit too wide, so I'll fix that after, but that's a cool coincidence. I didn't even notice. So here I'm going to, it looks like this lines up with the edge of the circle, so that's what I'm going to do. Again, it automatically lines up. And look, it automatically will space out 35, 35, just depending on how far you initially put this profile circle here. That looks good. Might be a bit too far down. Yeah, I can see the gap is a bit big, so I will just fix that a little bit. Okay, there we go, 30 and 30. Ah, that looks better. Okay, cool. Do I have anything here? No, okay. I was going to work on this white rectangle here, but we can do that after. Okay, so let's get these circles. They look, looking at this reference, look a bit too spaced out, so I want to fix that. You can just have 5 circles like I have here, but if you want, and say this looks good to you, maybe a little. Okay, yeah, so say the spacing looks good to you, might be a bit too far. Okay, that's better, I think. So you can just copy, paste that whole thing, and then space it out accordingly, like that. So you don't have to just go, like I was saying, one by one and figuring things out. But yeah, so I can just have that. I mean, feel free to. Feel free to do it one by one. There's no right way to do things. It's just which way is more efficient. You could get extra practice in this and that, but yeah. So scale these down a bit. Okay, I can see that they're still a bit big compared to the references. They're a bit big. I can also, oh, these assets are just a whole block. It's not actually individual. Actually, let's see. Oh yeah, I can do that. That's cool. I'm not sure if you will be able to do this if you can only view this document, but it doesn't matter. This is a video anyway. You can see it. If I wanted to check the dimensions, just click here, 73 and 73. What am I at now? Oh, more or less close. You can change it. So official answer, guys, it's 73, but feel free to figure it out on your own. Yeah, I don't know if you'll be able to look through all these assets in the viewer mode, but we'll see. Okay, so that changed these dimensions. However, the spacing changed. So I really don't want to delete the work that I have, or like just delete one by one. Oh, a good practice is to size it beforehand and then copy over. But since I didn't do that, I'm just going to get rid of these 3. Fix this one. About the same. That, get rid of this extra one. Okay, let's see how that looks. Here, about the same. I'll go here. I think, yeah, this aligns with this, but you can see that this kind of cuts off a little, so that means my spacing is a tad wide. Doesn't matter, really, but I'm just gonna fix it because it kind of bothers me. It might bother some of you too, so we'll just fix it real quick. It's a little too wide. Yeah, we'll roll with it. I'm too lazy to fix it. You guys get the idea. Okay, better grab this right here. There's obviously a bar here, but it's too big. So let's position a little closer. I want more precision, so I am going in. Oops, that's not what I want. I don't want to scale it this time. I just want to move it. Okay, cool. So next thing is these boxes. So I'm going to copy and drag one over. I'm going to do the boxes first and then put the X's on top. You can put the X's on top now and then continue on. Doesn't really matter. And so I have that. You can see there's a tiny gap, so I want to move it to the side first. And okay, look, it has gaps, but I want it to center between the two. Tad tricky because it's so close. Let's see. Okay, so there's a good amount of space. This might be too big. Okay, let's see. Let's do the edges first. Okay, so it's something about that size. Maybe a little smaller, but we'll just keep that for now. You can align it with that. Same thing here. Oh, the cursed middle. I could make it smaller, but I don't want to because it will kind of mess up the dimensions. But that's as much as I can get out of it, so we'll play around with that for now. Yeah, so what I did was, like you just saw, I just moved everything one by one, but what you could also do is, if you really wanted to make things a bit more efficient, you can just do one row or one column and copy that over. But I just wanted to make sure my spacing was right. Um, yeah, I like to take my time with things. Don't judge me. So next thing is these X's. So I am going to copy and paste. And I can see that it's white, so I'm going to change it to white. This one too. I should have done it before I copied, but that was okay. It's no big deal. And then move it in and size it accordingly. And then when you're selecting, make sure the X is highlighted and not the rectangle. Copy, pasting. Ah, I see it. This wasn't all the way aligned. Ah, that's why. Oh, I lost the X here. Let's see. Whoops. Okay. That's better. And then, if need be, I can fix the sizing here. And resize things accordingly. There we go. Yay. There we go. So now we're all done with that. Not too bad. Oh no, it didn't copy over well. See if I missed anything. Okay, I don't think I did. I think it just didn't copy over nicely. Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, so last thing we need is this white box. You could use this. In fact, I will use this and I'll just recolor it. But feel free to create a new box. Okay, and I can see that it is being placed. It's transparent. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, this is a transparent one. Oh, you could color it or you can make it transparent too. Up to you. Doesn't really matter. Make it to white. And put it up there. There we go. And that is how you make this profile page. You can fix these, but I'm not going to. Okay, I probably will just make a part 2 video now that I think about it, just so things are a bit easier. So, okay, we'll just stop here for now. And then stay tuned for the second part for the high fidelity part, wireframe.